Today's guest helped double his previous consumer product business every year for 5 years, growing from $30 million to over $500 million in sales, and then selling to Nestlé. Today, he helps growing companies keep up operationally with all of the complexities that come along with hypergrowth.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
I'm really excited to speak with Scott Springer today. He is the owner and president of Chelwood Consulting Group. He's got quite a background, experience in massively growing a different business, and then eventually setting up his current consulting business to help other companies do the same thing. We'll dive in all those details, but I encourage you to listen as we get started this interview. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here.
So let's talk about your background. So this previous company that you were a part of that grew so fast, can you tell us the story behind it and a little bit more details as to what the company was?
Yeah, I mean, I was in manufacturing for a long time. And then I got reached out to come help Vital Proteins, which is a really big supplement company, And, I got called to go there, relatively small at the time. And, I didn't know if I want to go to that small of a company. But, I had the opportunity to build a plant from scratch, which I was excited about because I've always had to inherit plants that were not in great shape. And so I got to build it the way it's supposed to be built. Excuse me. And then, and the owner's telling me, he's like, we're going to double every year. And I'm like, there's no way. And sure enough, we did. We doubled every year. We ended up selling to Nestlé. And then shortly after we sold to Nestlé, I started my own consulting group. And so I've been doing that for the last few years, and it's been great.
You talk about doubling every year, and I think it was at least 5 years that happened. Can you share with us where it started and where it ended from a revenue standpoint?
Our worst year was 86% growth. We actually had 1 year where it was less than a true doubling. But we were in like 30 millions and ended in the 500 millions revenue. I mean, it was pretty massive growth. And we had to manage that from the supply chain manufacturing because that's what I was. I was the VP of operations, starting out.
Yeah, so that's a big part of keeping up with the ability to grow quickly and having inventory in place, et cetera. From a marketing standpoint, how did that get accomplished as a business? What marketing channels do you know that were working really well? What really helped to grow the business so quickly?
So they were at the front end of using influencers, even before I started, right? So they were using influencers and they had a plan. They were going to go D2C, internet marketing. So it was primarily Amazon and their own website was... When I started, it was over 75% of the product that we sold was over the internet by one of those two methods. And it was always about, for back then, it was always about 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 Amazon, 1/3 our website. And that made up about 75%, 80% of our sales. And then we had a couple small stores that we started out in. The year I started, we did this massive expansion into Whole Foods. And then we started getting into retail, and we started getting into the retail stores. But it was heavy promotion, heavy marketing on internet, Facebook, Instagram. And we had our team set up in each area. Our marketing team was phenomenal. Our design team was phenomenal getting that stuff out there. And then once the market was built, the brand was built, and we improved it, they improved it over time. Then the sales team kicked in and then we were able to easily sell it into all the different stores. And it was almost like, it seemed like it was a new chain a month was coming in, it's like Target and, Whole Foods and everybody, Costco and Sam's Club and Walmart and every major chain you can think of, we were going into. And it was almost like, who are we loading into this month? Whenever you load into the stores, that first load in is 50 to 100% more than you sell normally to that store in a month. So there are always these massive waves of load-ins to stores.
It's a real common path of growth for consumer product companies to start direct to consumer and then really catapult growth going into retail. And it still exists today, right? So many of our audience probably listens and direct to consumer is the only way to go. And, as working in a business where we help companies launch and really focus on direct to consumer much more than retail today, obviously I love that side of the business. There's a huge potential opportunity to grow in that space. But eventually, still, for a lot of product categories, retail represents this massive opportunity of additional growth beyond that you just can't get on, or not in the same way, at least on Amazon or on your own website. It can be almost all incremental. So it remains a great opportunity for a lot of businesses. So let's rewind a little bit, though. So part of, that's the kind of opportunity. What are some of the issues you ran into from an operations perspective that as you grew, doubling basically every year, every single year? What are some challenges you run into that you now help companies with?
When I first started there, they're a great marketing sales company, when I started, but their operations and manufacturing was a little antiquated, I'll say, a little behind the time. So the biggest thing that first year, I was talking to someone earlier today, and it was like, man, it was such a sprint for 12 months to get us up to the level where we can grow comfortably without being a painful growth, and it was getting all the processes in place. The first year, probably our biggest issue that first year was our supply. Collagen peptides is what Vital Proteins does, right? And back, this is 7 years ago and now 8 years ago, there was a lot of collagen peptide companies, suppliers, but there was only one or two that made it very high quality. Most of the stuff, I tasted more collagen peptide from different manufacturers than you can ever imagine. And most of the time it tasted like I was eating a farm, because a lot of times it comes from beef, right? And it was like I was eating a farm and I had that taste in my mouth all day long. Ours was such high quality. So to be able to grow with the high quality stuff, we outstripped our supplier, and they had to build another plant just to supply us, our primary supplier. We had a number one and a number two, and then we had like a 3 and a 4 for in a pinch if we had some serious problems. But we didn't like to go off of our number one and number two. They were the best suppliers, and they made high quality. So that first year, being able to get enough supply to, we had to slow down our load into Costco till they had their plant done, their second plant, because we couldn't have enough to load into all the Costcos. We could only load into 3 regions at the time. And even that, it was like every ounce of collagen peptide was going into jars for the different stores that we were already in, like Whole Foods, and to get into Costco, plus our online business. But that first year, and also being able to keep up with capacity, because the plant that I inherited was not big enough to handle the doubling of the growth that year. And so we built a new plant. Took about a year to get that plant up and running. But from the day I started to when that plant started, we were using we were doing our own manufacturing, but we were also doing a lot of co-manufacturers. And then, you get issues with co-manufacturers sometimes. Some of them are great. Some of them were not so great, Yeah, those are the Absolutely. 2 biggest issues that first year.
And since then, I know I believe, did all your manufacturing with that company in the U.S., right? Was it all U.S.-based American manufacturing with the
packaging company? The collagen was actually from South America. And the reason, it's a very specific reason. It's if you ever go to Brazil or Argentina, South America, the beef down there is phenomenal. It's all grass-fed beef. They don't have like the feedlots like we have up here. They don't have winters like we have where there's no food for them to eat. They're eating grass that's like, I got pictures of me walking through the fields in a ranch down there where the grass is above my waist. It's like, and I'm pretty tall. And it was like, some of the grass was up to my chest. This like grass this high, like the cows, they don't reach down to eat. They reach out to eat the grass. There's so much grass down there for them to eat. And it's very healthy beef. Produces a very clean collagen peptide or collagen. And collagen just comes from gelatin. So it comes from, we were getting ours from the hide of the cow after the beef was, from the beef factories. But yeah, so all of ours was coming up from South America.
Better quality ingredients, and then better quality or better efficiency in the production leads to a better end result. Is kind of talked about.
It's like South America was designed for beef production, the way.
Yeah, I lived in Brazil for a couple of years, and the meat is phenomenal down there. It tastes like it's all farm raised. It really is, because everything's so local. So I know one of the things you do with clients now, so you're on the consulting side of helping them prepare and be able to scale with growth. It's marketing is one piece, right? But having your operations be able to stay up with you. I'd love to chat about American manufacturing because I know that's one thing you help some people, some of your clients do is to bring back to the United States, and there's great efficiencies in doing that. So being able to double one year to the next is more difficult overseas when you've got to wait sometimes 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks or longer if it's clearing through customs to get here. Having it localized can certainly help. What are some of the ways, I guess, that you help companies or that are helpful to companies to get their manufacturing here rather than doing it overseas?
Well, when you look at their forecasted sales and how much they expect it to grow, and then we start doing the back calculation of what can they produce in their given plant. Like when I started Vital Proteins, it was like he had a goal of how much he wanted to produce 3 years from now. And so we built a plant for that, right? And so I do that with my current customers. It's like, how much do we actually need? And then try to figure out the most economical method of automation to make that happen. Not all automation is like great paybacks, not a great return. A lot of it is a phenomenal return. And a lot of it is like coaching the owners on look at your return on your investment on the automation versus don't worry about how much you have to pay for the equipment. Some people look at the price tag, but they don't look at the return. Like I think anybody is like, hey, if I had $50,000 and if I can borrow $50,000 at current rates today at 6-7%, and I can make 60% on that $50,000, everybody would do it. And a lot of times when you're automating, that's what you're getting. You're getting double-digit returns on your investments, when you put that down. But I also help them manage that cash flow to make sure that they're doing it at the right time too. Don't do it too early. Wait till the right time and then be ready to automate, to limit the number of people you need on the job. And this way you can pay people more too. A lot of times they're not doing this manual work. They become technicians instead of packers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they make more money. They're doing it a more enjoyable job as well along the way. And yeah. And you maybe say this in a better way than I will, but to keep it in layman friendly terms, there's an advantage as we think about automation versus labor costs overseas, right? So it can be so inexpensive, or it feels inexpensive to manufacture a product overseas, really because it's driven by labor. In a lot of countries, there's very little automation, which can be expensive up front. But as you mentioned, it's an upfront investment, which you can borrow money for or pay over time, et cetera. But it can limit the amount of labor you need, therefore the labor cost. And in your experience and having helped so many clients through this, what sort of cost, I know every category, every type of process is going to be different, but what sort of cost savings or cost differences do you see by implementing automation the correctly, doing it in the US versus having manufacturing done overseas maybe?
Well, first of all, there's certain stuff that just is made better or designed to be made overseas. That's fine. But some of the stuff is much better made here than overseas. The higher end stuff, if quality is an issue, like food and, different steel and machinery and stuff like that, made much better in the US than, some parts of Asia, like China and stuff like that. A lot of Chinese equipment's not that great. But usually people get double-digit returns, like I said, if they automate and bring it in, depending on what the items are, right? But generally, when you do it here in the States, you're going to get, and if you do it right, if you do your analysis on how to do it and you're not afraid to lease equipment, people are so worried about putting out that big check for the equipment. It's like, well, then lease it, just like you would a car. It's no different. You can do the same thing with any piece of equipment. There's banks all over that'll, you can lease equipment for 5 years, 7 years, and get a $1 buyout at the end. And so you don't have to pay it all up front. You get your return. You get in your 20 to 80 to, I've had so many projects that were triple digit returns, over 100%. You're paying for yourself in less than a year. It's like 9 months. And people still, it's like, well, I don't know if I want to spend that money. It's like, what are you thinking?
Well, tell us about the Chelwood Consulting Group. So how do you help companies? We talked a little bit about automation. I know there's much more to what you do, but maybe at a high level, if you could share with our audience, how do you help? And maybe what type of company or opportunity would be the right person or company to reach out to you to get help?
Yeah, we help companies in different ways. It's generally small to mid-sized companies. Generally large companies, the largest companies in the world have teams of people like me and my team that do it, that are full-time employees, right? But every one of us have 20 plus years of experience in the industry in the different areas, whether it's quality or engineering or manufacturing. And we come in and we help people wherever their pain points are. Every company has bottlenecks. Usually the bottleneck is sales and marketing, right? But sometimes sales and marketing starts to outstrip manufacturing and supply chain. And that's when, they need our help. We can help them lower their costs, help them design their factory. And please, if you want us to design your factory, bring us in before you get started. Too often I get pulled in and it's like, you're so far down the rabbit hole that it's like, it's a very costly endeavor for the client, because it's the same price either way. It's just make the plant efficient, make it labor efficient, make it very clean, orderly, and it's like, it works great. We can help them with engineering, supply chain, manufacturing, lean manufacturing, a lot of training, improving their safety, quality systems, everything within a manufacturing plant outside of like IT, sales, and marketing. We have specialists in those areas.
Well, if anybody is listening and is intrigued or wants to learn more, Scott, how do they get a hold of you?
Probably email scott@chelwoodgroup.com. That's CHEL woodgroup.com. Or you can go to my website, chelwoodgroup.com, and, find us there.
Perfect. Well, Scott, I really appreciate the time today. This has been a really fun interview. I encourage our audience to check out your website to learn more. It's almost any company, or really any company, can benefit by taking a hard look at cost savings, whether that's manufacturer or other operations, to be able to improve their business. So, Scott, thanks again for your time today.
Thanks, John.
Did you know you can meet with a member of my team absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007 and learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help, so please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further.